finally, we're going to get to recap. We went through lines, did the exercise there, visited some shapes, did some exercise there, knowing you could do this with all of them. But I want to take you one step further today, and we're going to look at a few forms. So when I mean form, forget about the light that I added, but you could, if you feel like it, want to add it, go ahead. It's just lines. And we're going to look at a few of them, and I'm going to show you how we begin to see what is an illusion, really, on 2 dimensions, and how to describe it. So the first one is going to be this one. So now I'm telling you to draw something. Uh-oh. How can we do this? Well, when we begin to work from reference, everything we've done so far, we've worked from imagination. We're imagining it, we have a vision of it, and then we just deliver it. Now we're working from the real world, call it. So we have a form in front of us, this little cylinder. We need to analyze it. So what do we see? First thing I see is this. And I could check it, but they're pretty close to vertical lines. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the vertical lines that I see there. Notice again the grip. And for me to do a cylinder, I could have just redid it earlier. We could do that little curve at the bottom. So now I want to measure the actual sense of the curve that I'm looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and just ghost it. I notice that it's a little, in a way, it wants to become a circle. And it's somehow the size of a circle interrupted as it curves in and creates the illusion of going back as it meets that horizontal. I'm sorry, the vertical. So I have that vertical meeting this curved line. Now we come to the top. So if you look at the top, what connects the point of those 2 verticals is a wannabe circle. Call it an ellipse. So it's a circle in perspective. Here's a little joke. It's not a joke. I'm about to draw a cylinder. Are you ready? Done. It's a cylinder, and I could show you. Think of a roll of toilet paper, and I just did that. So now you could see where you're looking at it from, right? And let's do a little loose sheet right there. But that's the perspective. So a cylinder, in fact, is when you're looking at it from that perspective, all you see is a circle. Here's another cylinder. Let me show it to you. There it is. So you're looking at this eye level, straightforward, that we get a sense of how close this is becoming a circle. So obviously we're not going to do a circle because that means we're looking from the top, and I want to show you that. And we don't want it to be the horizontal line because we're not there either. It's somewhere in between. So how do we get there? We have to analyze and look at the curve. And just like we did with our previous pages of circles, that's kind of what you want to do. You want to take that, what would be a circle, I have the points where they meet, and I'm going to kind of ghost it. So as I begin to ghost it, see what happens? I could actually shift the angle, and it's my oval, my ellipse. And I want you to just work this way. I don't want you to get all stiff because, oh, now we're drawing. Now it's serious. And now, all of a sudden, I can't do it. But that's it. Ghosted it. You can ghost these. And you could even ghost this one. So this one you're ghosting back and forth because there's no, and you could actually make this transparent cylinder if I just Put a little bit of light back there, a light touch. And there we have it. Now, is it exactly the accurate perspective that we were looking at? I think mine should have been a little more towards the top. So again, we can work with it. And you have tons of, again, what comes to mind is marshmallows, toilet paper, that you could place at home, play it, just lay it down on the table, different heights, higher, lower than your eyesight, on the side, at a distance, and try to draw that. That's the best way to do it, really. Here's one more. We were just talking about this guy. So it's not exactly a horizontal. You can see that. I'm going to go down here. So first one, again, I want to get the size. So am I going to do my cylinder about this big? Or am I going to do it this big? So I want to get a sense of that. When I'm drawing, I want to get a sense of size in my composition on my paper so it fits and it looks like I want it. So very simply, I got the width of my cylinder, and I also have the height, and that looks about right. So instead of me wanting to just deliver 2 horizontal lines here, because that's not what I see, I'm going to just ghost the tiniest little curve line, very delicate, and I'm ghosting it very segmented in a way, where I see just enough curve and now at the bottom a little bit, just mostly at the end. So you notice that the curve really comes sharp as it reaches the ends and meets the verticals, and then it almost kind of feels like it flattens out, but very subtle. This is the difference when we deliver some shapes between being happy with the drawing and not so much. It's those very subtle variations in what is a tiny little curve and what's almost flat but not really. And knowing how to see it, knowing how to read it. And if you're feeling adventurous, and you can add a couple of lines. Darker right here in the middle. And they get spacier and lighter as they reach this side. And that takes it from shape to form. And if you want to add even more, you would sense that the shadow is on this side, so you place it on the surface. There we have it, 2 cylinders. I have 2 more for you, and they are these. So this is number 1, and ooh, okay. Now we're getting serious. What? How am I supposed to do this? And what I want you to do is, again, go back to the beginning. It all comes down to here. And you've done all of this already. So find the angle of the lines that you're looking at, ghost them. In a way you can find either the angle of the line, and I want you to see what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to find that angle first, which is all the way to the right, to the left edge. And then I'm going to find the angle, the diagonal, that I see at the top. As it meets, I know there's a rule. This one and this one that I'm about to draw here are parallel for this to be a square. So parallel diagonal lines here, meaning they follow the same angle. And all I'm doing is reading angles. Now, another rule. I know that this one and this one also have to be parallel in order for that to remain a square. There we go. So as I build one side, I'm going to take, either way, you can go any way you want. For me, this axis here would be crucial. So here's where I use that 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock thing. I want to make sure I get somewhat the sense. There's my line. See how I posture my hand up here in order to deliver that line, that top to bottom diagonal that we practiced earlier. It's not as loose, and here I'm into my rib cage. So I go here and I deliver it. This one needs to be parallel. So I ghost it. There it is. This and this parallel in order for it to be a square. So this one and this one, believe it or not, are going to the same point in perspective. And now we're dealing with another of those elements of art, which comes later. It's perspective. Very easy, by the way. And then this one should relate to this one as well. So these are on the same plane. They're parallel. So this angle has to match this angle. And then they're meeting all the way somewhere back here. Finally, this one, guess what? Right there. If I want to get it a little closer to what I'm seeing, I'm going to add a little light. And this one, the shadow, there is none because it's up in space. It's kind of like floating up there. And I want to take it a little bit further. I'm going to add a lighter shade so I could really, really see where the light is coming from. So this one's darker. This one's medium. This one's light. And there's our cube. Final. I'm wondering if we should do this one or this one. Let's do that one. The other one's too easy, and you're all advanced level. But just in case, I'm going to leave them both on screen. I'm going to let you take your pick. That's the way to do it. So there's two cubes on screen. I'm going to let you take your pick. And let's see, we got a few minutes left. I'm going to do them both. Why not? That's another choice. If you feel like you could do both, let's do both. I immediately see, and I'm looking at the top one, I see my verticals, and I know they're parallel, so I want to make sure I get that sense of size and depth. And then I find these angles. Now these are tricky because usually as humans, we tend to flatten out things. We feel more at peace when things are vertical or horizontal. So any diagonal, our tendency is to flatten it or straighten it. So beware of that. Make sure you see it, check it. And I think a very helpful tip is that clock one. So if you see it and it's not a 12 o'clock, it's not a 9 o'clock, don't make it a 9 o'clock. See, notice this line here. How do I know? It's like 9:05. Yeah, maybe it's more like 9:15 for me. But that's how I angle this line. So I know it's not horizontal. And this is where really you begin to focus and analyze to take your drawing further. How well you can read, how well you can see, read, interpret angles, lines into shapes, and simplify them. So you could interpret, transfer them to paper. I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom one now. So the line that stands out the most, once again, vertical. Right at the bottom. And it's going to give me this nice angle, which I know it's parallel. And these may not be fully parallel, but they are very close to my axis here. Now this one almost looks the same in the opposite direction. And I mean same angle, just opposite direction, and same thing here. Almost vertical with just an inclination towards the corner. And these two, actually it's this one and this one, have to be on the same plane, so they're parallel. And just like that, I want to make sure I point this point. If I were to draw a straight line, it's actually a little more over here. So that solves it for me, just like a puzzle. There and there. If I look at the light, I have a little darker shadow over here and a little bit medium. So there's some light coming through right there. And there's shadow going backwards. So this one's interesting. And there we have it. Lines, shapes, forms, and now you have a whole universe of it to play with. I hope you guys enjoyed it.